DC doesn't always abandon its characters. Sometimes it leaves entire versions of them behind in the multiverse. Different timelines, alternate Earths, and forgotten realities created variants that were bold, unique, and often more interesting than their main counterparts. But as continuity tightened, many of these versions were quietly left behind. Heroes with fresh identities and wild concepts reduced to obscure footnotes in DC history. They didn't fail, they just never got a second chance. But which forgotten variants actually deserve a modern revival? Here are 10 forgotten DC Multiverse variants that need a modern revival. At number 10 is the Tangent Flash. Introduced in Tangent Comics, The Flash Issue 1 in 1997, Leah Nelson is the Flash of Earth 9, a brilliant variant completely disconnected from the traditional Speed Force. Instead, as the first human born in space, she is a being of pure, cohesive light energy. In her world, she was not a forensic scientist, but a highly public celebrity, fashion model, and actress who served as a beacon of hope. Leah actively fought the covert government organization Nightwing and played a pivotal role in saving her universe from a rogue, conquering Superman. After the Tangent imprint concluded in the late 90s, aside from a brief crossover event, DC basically shelved the entire universe. Today, she is virtually forgotten, completely overshadowed by Barry Allen and buried in rarely reprinted lore. However, she desperately needs a modern revival. A uniquely light-powered hero navigating public relations and modern influencer culture offers immense visual storytelling potential. Currently missing in action, she only exists as a simple forgotten footnote. At number 9 is Inquisitor Batman. Introduced in Batman: Holy Terror in 1991 as the protector of this dark Elseworlds timeline. This Elseworlds timeline completely nukes the traditional Bruce Wayne origin story. In a timeline where Oliver Cromwell lived longer to forge a corrupt, theocratic American empire, Bruce Wayne serves as a priest and inquisitor. After discovering the state executed his parents for sheltering enemies of the church, he uses his clerical resources to uncover a massive conspiracy. His investigation leads him to a secret government lab, weaponizing metahumans like Flash and Superman. Because Holy Terror was a one-shot Elseworlds One prestige graphic novel, the character was no longer used after its self-contained story concluded. He is often overshadowing it with Gotham by Gaslight or Red Rain, due to its dense political nature. A dark political thriller featuring Batman dismantling a corrupt religious state from the inside heavily emphasizes his detective skills. Today, this incredible variant remains ignored. At number 8 is Sheriff. First appearing in the DC Multiverse story Justice Riders Issue 1 in 1997, Sheriff Diana Prince takes everything you know about Wonder Woman and throws it out the window. In this reality, Diana is a gritty, gunslinging U.S. Marshal in the Old West who wields a lasso and twin revolvers. She is driven by revenge against Maxwell Lord, a ruthless railroad baron who hired Felix Faust to completely destroy her frontier town of Paradise. Acting as the anchor for the Justice Riders, she forms a posse with Booster Gold, Martian Manhunter, Blue Beetle, and a gunslinging Kid Flash to hunt down his criminal empire. Like many 90s Elseworlds, this was a gimmick. After the novelty of DC heroes in the Wild West wore off, the character was no longer used, as Westerns faded from mainstream superhero comics. A hardened frontier Wonder Woman dealing in moral grays is begging for a serialized modern run. And that's just a glimpse of what DC left behind, because the next version takes everything you know and completely flips it on its head. At number 7 is Super Demon. First appearing in the DC Multiverse story Final Crisis, Superman Beyond Issue 1 in 2008, Super Demon of Earth 13 is hands down one of the wildest reinventions DC has ever printed. Rocketed from a doomed magic-based Krypton called Camelot, he landed on Earth and was raised by Jason Blood. He is essentially a Superman who speaks in rhyme and possesses the demonic powers of Etrigan. In his world, Super Demon leads the League of Shadows, acting as the prime defender of a universe entirely shrouded in eternal twilight and governed by occult magic. After his creation by Grant Morrison for a specific meta-textual event, the character was sadly unused because he was only a supporting player in massive crossovers and never received a solo title. A heavy metal, dark fantasy Superman flipping traditional sci-fi roots into pure gothic horror is a phenomenal aesthetic just sitting on the shelf. At number 6 is the Stan Lee Batman. This alternate version appeared in the DC Multiverse story. Just imagine Stan Lee with Joe Kubert creating Batman occupying Earth-6 in 2001. This reality radically reinvents the Batman mythos from the ground up. Wayne Williams is a black man who was framed for a crime he did not commit. In prison, he hones his body and mind. Upon release, he becomes a masked professional wrestler to secretly build a fortune, funding his own crusade against the gang leader who framed him. Using a literal, bat-inspired flight suit to terrorize the criminal underworld of Los Angeles, he serves as a self-made hero who did not inherit wealth. After the novelty project ended, the character was no longer used because DC rarely promotes the work of outside creators. A street-level revenge thriller starring Wayne Williams fighting systemic corruption would be a massive hit today. At number 5 is Pacifist Superman. This alternate version appeared in the DC Multiverse story Countdown to Final Crisis issue 30 in 2007. This Earth-15 reality flips the script entirely. In this universe, Kal-El is not Superman. General Zod is. However, instead of being a tyrant, Zod is a peaceful, deeply successful Superman who managed to turn Earth-15 into a literal utopia where crime and tragedy were entirely eradicated. This wasn't just a temporary ceasefire. Zod built a flourishing paradise where legendary global threats were permanently neutralized without shedding a single drop of blood. He didn't just fight villains, he acted as the ultimate success story of the multiverse. The heroes of Earth-15 had actually won the never-ending battle and retired, leaving Zod to maintain the peace. During the event, an angry Superman Prime brutally murdered Zod and blew up the entire universe. Because Countdown was a messy event, the storyline was dropped. Rebuilding a peaceful utopia perfectly subverts the tired, evil Superman trope, but DC hasn't touched it since. At number 4 is The Flash of Earth-D. This alternate version appeared in the DC Multiverse story Legends of the DC Universe, Crisis on Infinite Earths, issue 1 in 1999. This timeline takes the Flash legacy in a deeply optimistic direction. Tanaka Ray is a Japanese man who idolized Barry Allen. He gained speed powers and became the Flash of Earth-D, a deeply optimistic, highly diverse universe where the Justice Alliance operates in total harmony. Serving as the heart of the Alliance, he teams up with Barry, who is shocked by how hopeful this alternate Earth is. Unlike the grim and gritty speedsters of modern comics, his brightly colored world celebrated pure, unapologetic heroism without an ounce of brooding or cynicism. As a retroactive addition to the 1985 crisis, Earth-D is consumed by antimatter, and Tanaka dies helping citizens evacuate. Because he was introduced and killed in a single issue, he faded away. Reviving Tanaka as a beacon of uncorrupted classic heroism would bring much-needed heart to modern Flash books. But now we're getting into DC's biggest missed opportunities, where these versions weren't just unique, they could have redefined entire franchises. At number 3 is Captain Leatherwing. This alternate version appeared in the DC Multiverse story Detective Comics Annual 7 in 1994. Here is where things go entirely off the rails. Captain Leatherwing is a classic privateer operating out of the Bat's Cay. Driven by the murder of his parents and the brutal theft of their lands, he robs enemy nations to fund the English crown. Instead of playing by the rules, his main mission was brutally simple: commanding a galleon called the Flying Fox, engaging in brutal naval warfare against the Laughing Man while navigating a treacherous romance with Capitana Felina. Clashing swords with an unhinged, swashbuckling Joker variant gave fans some of the most visually stunning, blood-soaked action panels of the entire decade. He appeared in his debut annual and got one more story before the concept dropped. The pirate theme was not pushed heavily, leaving him buried under other Batman timelines. A swashbuckling Batman ongoing series featuring intense naval combat is a guaranteed hit that DC is sleeping on. At number 2 is the Avatar Flash. This alternate version appeared in this DC Multiverse story Batman Beyond Unlimited in 2013, taking place in the Earth 12 timeline. This timeline completely changes how the Speed Force works. Danica Williams is a teenager in the 2040s working at the Flash Museum. What makes her uniquely brilliant is her connection to the Speed Force. She can actively commune with the ghosts of past Flashes who guide and train her in real time. She didn't just sit on the sidelines, she stepped up to the front lines to protect Central City when the Justice League Beyond needs a speedster, using her avatar-like connection to defeat temporal threats. The Beyond continuity went through massive resets, causing secondary characters to get swept away. Most fans don't even know this version exists, focusing entirely on Terry McGinnis. Channeling past memories perfectly bridges legacy and futurism, and she deserves a spot in the modern Flash family. At number 1 is Pulp Green Lantern. First appearing in the 2014 epic The Multiversity, Society of Superheroes Issue 1, this alternate version of the character had a completely different concept. Abin Sur of Earth 20 serves as the Green Lantern of a gritty, hardcore pulp universe. Wearing a retro aviator outfit, he wields a rugged, visceral form of light construct magic. Imagine trading sleek sci-fi alien technology for a battered veteran blasting neon green magic through a smoking Tommy gun in a gritty 1940s noir setting. He played this role in his world as the frontline general for the Society of Superheroes, fighting a desperate war against the invading zombie forces of the neighboring Earth 40. Because editorial rarely licenses Grant Morrison and his specific universe out, most fans only know him as the guy who dies to give Hal Jordan the ring. However, DC could do something amazing with this version today. A hard-boiled detective story mixed with cosmic Green Lantern elements creates an aesthetic reminiscent of Hellboy. Completely unused by DC, these variants still have untapped potential. Comment your favorite and subscribe for more deep dives into DC's forgotten multiverse stories.